There is a kind of man who walks through the world as if he is carved from silence itself. He doesn't announce his presence. He doesn't ask to be seen. But everything around him shifts when he enters the room, not because he demands attention, but because his energy has the weight of someone who no longer needs it. He lives by laws that most men never even discover. He speaks less, but says more. He moves less, but creates more. He chases nothing, and yet everything moves toward him. He is a mirror of nature, a student of the Tao. He understands what Lao Tzu whispered through the centuries. A man with outward courage dares to die. A man with inner courage dares to live. And that is what separates him from the rest. He dares to live without attachment, without validation, without chasing things that collapse under their own weight when grasped too tightly. Other men are in motion. He is still. Other men react. He observes. Other men clamor for her attention. He walks past, utterly unimpressed. And that is when it begins. That's when she starts to notice. Not the words, not the looks, not the effort, but the absence, the calm, the self-possession. She starts wondering why he doesn't chase, why he doesn't try, why he doesn't need. Because women have seen men try. They've seen men sell themselves, present their best angles, overextend, over-explain, overcompensate. But they have rarely seen a man who is complete before her, not immune to her, but not altered by her presence either. This man isn't avoiding love. He's just not starving for it. He's not closed off. He's selective. He isn't cold. He's simply not for everyone, because he has built a life that doesn't require her to feel meaningful. He has cultivated solitude until it became peace. He has turned silence into strength, and she can feel that. She can feel that his mind is not open real estate for just anyone to build upon. She can feel that his emotional gates are not unlocked by smiles or compliments. She can feel that even if she got his attention, it would cost her something real, because he is not for rent. He is not for free. He is not available in bulk. He is a scarce resource in a world addicted to easy access. And that scarcity creates value. It creates mystery. It creates pursuit. And the most dangerous part? He's not doing it to create those things. He simply is those things. He is the rare man who became whole before he was wanted. And that, more than anything else, is what makes him unforgettable. This is not about pretending to be something you're not. This is not a game of withholding affection, using silence as bait or playing hard to get. Because the man we're speaking of doesn't withhold. He simply doesn't offer himself where he's not truly moved to give. His restraint is not strategy, it's instinct. He doesn't speak to entertain silence. He doesn't respond to pressure. He doesn't hand out his energy like business cards. And because of that, people, especially women, begin to notice the weight of his absence more than the noise of most men's presence. They feel the gravity of his standards, the tension of his calm, the richness of his detachment. It's in the way he looks without staring, in the way he listens without agreeing, in the way he gives space instead of attention, and time instead of approval. He's not calculating it. He's not watching to see what effect it has. He doesn't need her reaction to validate his choices, because his choices are rooted in something deeper than desire. They are rooted in discipline, purpose, vision. Most men move toward women as if proximity equals intimacy, as if being near her, replying quickly, liking her posts, being available, will win her loyalty or desire. But the man aligned with the Tao knows this isn't how desire works. Desire lives in distance, in longing, in questions unanswered. Lao Tzu wrote, "To hold, you must first open your hand, let go." And this man, he lets go of outcome. He does not manipulate emotion because he has no desire to control what does not belong to him. He does not seek connection because he has already built one with himself. He does not chase what is running because anything that runs from him is already lost. You must understand, there is no technique more powerful than authentic inner peace. There is no tactic more effective than indifference that is real. There is no signal more intoxicating to a woman than the realization that she is curious about a man who feels no need to be understood. She begins to wonder, why is he so free? Why doesn't he need me? What does he know that I don't? She becomes entangled in the mystery of his restraint, not because he withheld something, but because he didn't offer what she assumed she deserved by default. That's the foundation of the mind game, to live in such a way that your presence feels like a privilege, not a prize to be handed out for the lowest price. To walk through the world with the quiet certainty that you are not here to chase, but to choose, not to convince, but to observe, not to perform, but to become. And once a man steps into that energy, everything starts to change. She doesn't talk about him the way she talks about other men. There's a hesitation in her voice, a curiosity in her eyes, because he didn't fall into the predictable rhythm of attention, validation, and availability. He disrupted it, not with arrogance, but with presence, not with mystery, but with mastery. The truth is, she's not used to not being pursued. She's not used to being in the position of wondering, waiting, watching. But now she is, because he gave her something rare. Space. Not the kind of space that disappears, the kind that expands, the kind that makes her world feel a little quieter without him in it, the kind that makes her question her own reactions, the kind that makes her look inward, because he is no longer orbiting her. She finds herself checking his presence the way most men check hers. She starts thinking before she texts. She starts asking her friends what they think his silence means. She scrolls through conversations, not to remember what he said, but to feel close to the silence that followed it. And why? Because his energy lingers. Stillness leaves a deeper impression than noise, and his stillness has become unforgettable. This is not about creating anxiety in her. This is about creating value in yourself. A man who understands the Tao does not overextend. He does not flood others with access. He moves like nature, subtle, powerful, seasonal. He offers presence like rain. It comes when it's needed, not when it's demanded. It refreshes the right soil and passes over the unworthy. Lao Tzu wrote, "He who knows others is wise. He who knows himself is enlightened." This man has chosen the second. He no longer acts to provoke response. He moves when it's aligned and stays silent when it's not. He doesn't reach out to be remembered. He knows that what is unforgettable doesn't have to remind you it exists. And that is the core of his magnetism, not in what he gives, but in what he holds back, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. His energy says, "I am available to what serves my vision. I am open to what sharpens my focus. I am drawn to what deepens my peace, and everything else may watch me from a distance." This isn't coldness, this is selective fire. He has become so aligned with his direction that anything not walking beside him feels like a distraction. And the moment she realizes he is willing to walk alone is the moment she starts to wonder, what would it take to walk with him? When a man stops chasing, he doesn't become passive, he becomes powerful. Most men confuse withdrawal with weakness, but true withdrawal, intentional, grounded, sovereign withdrawal, is the act of a man who knows his value so deeply he refuses to offer it to those who can't recognize it. He is not avoiding intimacy. He is filtering for alignment. He is not distant. He is precise. And in that precision, she feels something unfamiliar. Not rejection, but a challenge. Not because he's playing hard to get, but because he already is hard to get. Not by strategy, by design. Because what is rare is protected. What is powerful is never loud. What is sacred does not advertise. Lao Tzu taught that water is the softest thing in the world, yet it erodes rock. It yields, but never breaks. It moves around resistance, but never stops flowing. That is the energy of this man. He doesn't argue, he doesn't convince, he doesn't fight for what must be chased. He simply flows around it and continues forward. And when she feels that, when she sees that she cannot shake him, pressure him, or impress him into compliance, she realizes something most women never feel. She is in the presence of a man who cannot be conquered. And what cannot be conquered cannot be forgotten. This is where the mind game deepens, because now she isn't just curious, she's invested. She doesn't just want to be wanted, she wants to be chosen, not because he's aloof or rude, but because his energy has communicated one fundamental truth. You can't enter this world unless you bring something real. He's not holding out for attention. He's not leveraging scarcity to create panic. He simply values his peace more than her approval. And that shifts the entire dynamic, because once a woman senses that your life is already full, that your days are already rich, that your mind is already occupied by vision, that your soul is already being fed by your path, she stops wondering if you'll pick her. She starts wondering if she is good enough to be picked. That is the reversal. That is the mind game. That is the moment where everything shifts, not because he said the right thing, not because he played it cool, but because he became the mountain. And the mountain does not come down to meet the climber ascends, or she turns around. Either way, the mountain remains unmoved. Now she begins to feel it, not as a game, but as gravity. She used to be the one pursued. She used to be the one surrounded by options, messages, attention, noise. But now, none of that feels like power, because when she's around him, all that noise disappears. And what she feels is small, not insignificant, but unprepared. Unprepared for a man who doesn't move on emotional impulse. Unprepared for a man who doesn't apologize for having standards. Unprepared for a man who doesn't compete for affection, because his affection is already valuable without competition. This man isn't swayed by beauty. He's seen beauty before. He doesn't need validation. He validates himself with discipline. He doesn't need company. He keeps company with his mission. And that's the paradox she faces. The more he stands in that stillness, the more unstable she becomes. The more silent he is, the louder her thoughts grow. The more uninterested he seems, the more consumed she becomes. Not because he's manipulating her emotions, but because his presence doesn't feed her ego. It demands her essence. This is why women chase such men, not because they are cold, but because they are pure, free from desperation, free from performance, free from the disease of needing to be seen. Lao Tzu wrote, "When you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everyone will respect you." This man lives that truth. He does not enter the marketplace of desire with dancing tricks and smiles. He doesn't audition for love. He embodies love of self so fully that it cannot help but attract those who crave peace in a world of performance. His life is his fortress. His solitude is his kingdom. And the only way in is through grace, through alignment, through invitation. She begins to feel that just being near him costs something. Her illusions, her control, her masks. And for the first time she understands what it means to want a man who doesn't need to want her back. This is where obsession begins, not because he triggered her emotions, but because he revealed her limits. And now she has to rise or retreat, because he will not move. He will not beg. He will not follow. He remains still. The man she cannot stop thinking about isn't mysterious by design. He is grounded by nature. His confidence isn't loud, it's unquestioned. His silence isn't empty, it's charged. Every word he speaks carries weight, because his life is not full of empty conversations. Every gesture matters, because he doesn't give out energy like cheap candy. He has stepped beyond performance, beyond charm, beyond tactics, because he has seen what most men never see, that the moment you act to be desired, you abandon your power, and the moment you stop needing to be desired, you become the desire. He has no interest in being liked, no interest in being everyone's favorite man. His presence is not a service, it's a standard, and that standard repels the shallow while magnetizing the rare. She begins to feel like she's earning moments with him, and not because he withholds, but because he doesn't offer what isn't deserved. And now the game turns inward for her. She becomes the one asking, what does he see when he looks at me? Why do I feel exposed around him? Why do I crave his attention, but fear it at the same time? Because his gaze does not flatter. It reveals. It doesn't tell her who she wants to be. It shows her who she is. Most men give attention like a drug. He gives it like a mirror, and the mirror never lies. Lao Tzu said, "The wise man is one who knows what he does not know." And this man walks with that humility, not because he is small, but because he is so powerful, he doesn't need to prove anything. That's what makes her obsessed. He sees through her games. He sees beyond her beauty. He listens between her words. And in a world where she's used to men chasing the fantasy of her, he alone remains focused on truth. That's what makes him dangerous, not because he's cruel, but because he can see her without needing her. And that, to a woman, is terrifying, because it means she can't seduce her way into his heart. She can't manipulate her way into his soul. She must rise. She must offer something real, or watch him vanish like mist, unbothered, untouched, unclaimed. He does not belong to the world, and that's exactly why the world tries to belong to him. He doesn't win her by out-talking other men. He wins her by outlasting their noise. He doesn't dominate the conversation. He becomes the silence she replays when the world is loud. He doesn't post to be seen. He moves through life as if being seen is a side effect, not a goal. And by the time she realizes he's unlike anyone she's ever met, he's already moved on. Not out of bitterness, but because the river never stops flowing just to be admired. That's the final truth. He doesn't stay to prove his worth. He walks because movement is natural. He lets go because clinging is weakness. He builds because he was born to create, not to convince. You must understand, the man who lives by the Tao does not beg to be wanted. He becomes a force that cannot be ignored. He doesn't chase relationships. He builds a life so rich, so rare, so untouchable, that the right woman doesn't just desire him. She restructures her life to follow where he's going, because she knows this man is not coming back. This man does not orbit. This man does not wait. He is not addicted to her presence. He is loyal to his path, and the deeper he walks into that path, the more he becomes legend. In the end, it's not tactics, it's not game, it's not image, it's alignment. When you become the man who needs nothing, the world offers you everything. She doesn't pursue him because he made her feel special. She pursues him because he made her feel something sacred, something she's never felt before. A stillness that shattered her chaos, a standard that awakened her self-respect, a power that called her to rise or be forgotten. He is the test, the mountain, the unbothered fire walking through the storm, and men like that, they are not found, they are followed. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, if you see yourself becoming this man, or if you already are, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss these lessons. And if you truly believe in this mission, support the channel using the link in the description. Every bit of support helps fuel content made for men like you.